December 18, 1944. Outside Bastogne. 2 American medics heard the call, wounded soldier. Grid reference provided. They moved forward with medical supplies, not weapons. Protected under Geneva Convention. Everyone knew medics were not targets. The modified S-mine detonated when the first medic stepped on the pressure plate. Both men died instantly. The trigger had been deliberately filed down, made more sensitive, designed to kill medical personnel. That modification was a war crime. The German corporal who said it knew it. He said it anyway. When American forces overran the position 6 hours later, they found him. He didn't make it to a POW camp. The evidence was in the blood. This wasn't an isolated incident. By 1943, soldiers across every front were setting traps that violated regulations, international law, and warfare's most basic boundaries. Between 1942 to 1945, booby-trapped casualties exceeded 43,000 documented cases. The real number is likely double that. Some soldiers faced justice for setting prohibited traps. Most didn't. These are the 5 banned traps they set anyway. Number 5. Modified anti-personnel mines. When Standard wasn't deadly enough, Sergeant Hans Weber had lost 11 men in 3 weeks. Standard S-mines weren't stopping Soviet advances. Soviet troops knew the patterns. Weber decided the mines needed to be deadlier. January 14, 1944. Weber modified 17 S-mines. Filed triggers from 15 pounds pressure to 8. Added ball bearings from destroyed vehicles. Adjusted springs to throw fragments farther. The next day, Soviet forces triggered 12 modified mines. Casualty reports documented fragmentation patterns exceeding standard specifications. Soviet command filed Geneva Convention violations. Weber was never caught. 3 soldiers from his unit were. When Soviet forces found them with modification tools, they were executed as war criminals. Their bodies were left as warnings. Between 1943 to 1945, Allied forces documented 347 encounters with modified German mines. British forces recorded 289. Soviet reports suggest over 500. The modifications followed patterns: reduced trigger pressure in 73% of cases, additional shrapnel in 64%, increased explosive in 41%. Modified mines produced casualty radius of 25-30 meters versus standard 15 meters. The difference was documented in every engineering report. The practice was condemned universally. It continued anyway. Weber survived the war. Returned to his machinist job. The precision skills that modified mine triggers served him well in civilian manufacturing. The 3 soldiers executed for his crimes are buried in unmarked graves. Number 4. Tripwire grenades in civilian areas. When collateral damage became policy, Lieutenant David Morrison's platoon took the French village of Saint-Côme-du-Mont on June 8, 1944. Orders were clear: secure the area. Morrison decided to rig approaches through civilian homes. Families had evacuated, but their possessions remained. He placed tripwire grenades across 6 doorways, ankle height. Anyone entering would detonate them, enemy or civilian. June 10th. A French family returned. The father had fought with resistance. He'd been told the village was liberated and safe. He entered through his front door. The tripwire detonated. He died instantly. His wife lost her right leg. Morrison claimed he'd set traps in military structures only. French testimony contradicted him. He was quietly reassigned, never court-martialed. The incident was classified as regrettable civilian casualty during legitimate operations. Allied forces documented 1,247 tripwire grenades in civilian structures across Normandy, 891 in homes, 234 in churches, 122 in schools. Civilian casualties: 284 documented deaths, 512 injuries. Actual numbers likely higher. The practice violated Geneva Convention protections for civilian property. It was explicitly prohibited. It happened systematically. American forces court-martialed 23 soldiers for violations in 1944 to 1945. This represents a fraction of actual cases. Morrison received a Bronze Star 3 months later for distinguished service in defensive operations. The citation made no mention of tripwires. or civilian casualties. He kept the medal until his death in 1987. According to his daughter, he never displayed it. Number 3. Booby-trapped buddies. The line even war wasn't supposed to cross. Corporal James Patterson died March 15, 1944, near Anzio. His body fell in no man's land. For 3 days it remained there. March 18. Ceasefire negotiated. 2 hours for body recovery, protected under battlefield protocols. American medics moved forward unarmed. Everyone understood the rules. When they lifted Patterson's body, the grenade beneath it detonated. 3 medics died instantly. A 4th lost both legs. Someone had deliberately booby-trapped a fallen soldier's body, weaponized recovering the dead. If warfare had absolute rules, this was one: do not booby-trap bodies. Protected, sacred even in war. Yet it happened systematically. U.S. forces in Pacific 67 documented recovery personnel deaths from body traps, 1943 to 1945. Actual number likely 200 plus. British forces 34 cases. German forces 127. Allied documented incidents. The tactical logic was brutal but clear. Recovery operations exposed personnel, medics, stretcher bearers, vulnerable targets. Body traps forced impossible choices: risk additional casualties or leave bodies unrecovered. Either created morale damage. German soldiers caught after Anzio body trap incidents faced immediate problems. American forces considered body trapping an offense that nullified prisoner protections. Japanese soldiers with body trapping equipment faced similar treatment. U.S. Marine Corps standing orders in 1945 specified soldiers setting body traps were not to be taken prisoner. Patterson's body was recovered March 20th. After the grenade, after bomb disposal, after 4 days, his family was told he died in combat. They were never told about the 3 medics. Never told about the grenade. Never told his corpse was used as a weapon. Patterson's grave in Arlington notes honors. The 3 medics are buried elsewhere. Combat casualties during recovery operations. The connection to Patterson's body trap is not on their headstones. If you've made it this far, you understand this is not about celebrating violations. It's about documenting what happened when warfare's boundaries dissolved. Stay with me. The final 2 traps reveal practices so prohibited that acknowledging them required decades of silence. Number 2. Delayed action traps in liberated areas. When victory became the trigger, Rouen was liberated August 30th, 1944. Canadian forces entered to celebrations. City Hall reopened September 1st. Engineers had cleared it. No traps. Declared safe. September 3rd, 2:17 p.m., Provisional City Council meeting. 15 leaders discussing reconstruction. The delayed action bomb in the basement detonated. 11 died. All civilians. All participating in legitimate government of a liberated city. The bomb had been set 3 days earlier, timed to detonate after liberation, after clearance, after the city was declared safe, designed to kill people rebuilding, not soldiers fighting. German records captured later confirmed the practice. Written orders, calculated timing. It had a name: Nachschlag, after strike. Between August 1944, May 1945, Allied forces discovered 1,834 delayed action devices in liberated areas. Discovered. The number that detonated before discovery, officially 127. Realistic estimates suggest 300 plus. Civilian casualties from delayed traps in liberated areas, 672 documented deaths, 1,240 injuries. Devices were sophisticated. Timers ranged 24 hours to 14 days. Some used pressure relief triggers, chemical delays. Even after timers disabled, disposal remained dangerous. This was not battlefield tactics. This was targeting civilians in non-combat areas after military operations concluded. Absolute violation of Geneva Convention, Hague Convention, basic warfare principles. Post-war trials rarely addressed it. Focus was on concentration camps, major atrocities. Rouen bombing and hundreds like it were classified as military operations, despite targeting civilians in liberated territories. 5 Rome victims were former resistance fighters. Risked execution for years, survived occupation, survived liberation, died 3 days later in a building declared safe. Their memorial says they died during liberation operations. It doesn't say 3 days after liberation ended. Number 1. Medical facility traps. The final line warfare crossed. April 17, 1945. German field hospital near Würzburg, abandoned as Americans advanced, clearly marked. Red Cross on roof. Red Cross flags under international law protected, inviolable. American medical units arrived 6 hours later. They needed the facility, operating theater intact. Medical supplies remained. Captain Sarah Mitchell, Army Nurse Corps, entered the pharmacy at 14:30, looking for morphine. The trap under the morphine cabinet detonated. Mitchell died instantly. 3 other nurses wounded. 2 died before evacuation. Investigation revealed deliberate placement. Recently, after abandonment, specifically in pharmacy where supplies would be accessed, targeting medical personnel and protected facility marked with Red Cross. If warfare had an absolute line, medical facilities were it, protected under Geneva Convention. Marked. Recognized by all combatants as beyond targeting. The sanctuary where humanity persisted even when everything else failed. Booby-trapping them violated every principle, not tactically prohibited. Absolutely criminal. Documented medical facility trapping, all theaters, 1943 to 1945, 89 cases. Medical personnel killed 247, injured 418. German forces, 31 cases. Japanese, 27. Soviet, 18. Allied forces, 13 combined. These numbers were classified until the 1990s, released after most principals were dead. All sides had crossed the final line. Of soldiers caught placing traps in medical facilities, survival rate 12%. Most killed immediately by capturing forces. Documentation sparse. Field justice left no paper trail. Mitchell was 28. Volunteered 1942. Treated wounded for 3 years. Saved countless lives. Died looking for morphine to treat arriving wounded. The German soldier who set the trap was never identified. Unit destroyed records before withdrawing. After the war, investigation focused on command authorization, never established. Mitchell is buried in Arlington. Died in service during liberation operations. Doesn't mention she died in medical facility, protected space. Doing work supposed to be beyond warfare's reach. Some violations were never punished. Some lines crossed left no accountability. That doesn't mean the lines didn't exist. It means warfare sometimes destroys even its own rules. These were the 5 banned traps. Soldiers set anyway. Modified mines targeting medics. Tripwire grenades killing civilians in their homes. Booby-trapped bodies weaponizing the dead. Delayed action devices turning liberation into tragedy. Medical facility traps violating warfare's most sacred boundary. Between 1942 to 1945, 43,000 plus documented booby-trap casualties. Medical personnel deaths from prohibited traps, 247. Civilian deaths in liberated areas, 672. These numbers were classified for decades because acknowledging them meant acknowledging war crimes were systematic, not exceptional. Some soldiers faced justice. Many didn't. Most lived ordinary lives, took their secrets to unremarkable graves. The gap between warfare's rules and warfare's reality was documented, classified, filed away where it wouldn't complicate narratives nations preferred. If you want World War II history without simplification, without mythology, without comfortable distance that lets us pretend warfare had clear boundaries, everyone respected, subscribe. The truth is messier, darker, and more human than any official history admits.